All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kalamazoo Venture Tuesday. Everyone, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking, but do feel free to leave your camera on so that we can see your smiling faces. For those who have not joined us before, Kalamazoo Venture Tuesday is an opportunity to see inside the minds of investors as they provide feedback to company presenters. The purpose of KVT is not to secure immediate investment, but rather it's a teaching opportunity for participating companies and for members of the audience. Each of our quarterly meetings features a panel of 3 active investors and 3 startup early stage companies. Each presenter will have 10 minutes to pitch, followed by 10 minutes of feedback from the investor panel. We will not take questions from the audience. However, you may ask questions or make comments in the chat, which is located in the little conversation bubble at the top of your screen. Let's get started by introducing our esteemed panel of investors. Nancy, I'm going to start with you. Can you unmute yourself and say hello?
Hi, everyone. Do you want a brief background or just to say hi?
Sure, go ahead, give a little background.
Yeah, so I am one of the co-founders and general partners of an early stage investment fund called Belle Impact Fund. And our investment thesis is we are early stage, but our key criteria is that we invest in either women-owned, led, or gender diverse companies that, again, have at least a woman that has a significant ownership stake in the company. So happy to be here.
Great, thank you. Sun Chao, can you unmute and say hello?
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Sun Chao, and say hello, good morning from Ypsilanti, Michigan. And I'm the VP of investments of a family office. Our headquarters in Bonita Springs, Florida. Our background is fintech and the fleet management. We invest and work with founders of Series A with a $10 million check size in advanced mobility, cybersecurity, yeah, looking forward to hear from everybody.
Wonderful, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Mary Sue, how are you today?
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Sue Hoffman. I'm founder of eStage. I've been in the startup space for about 20 years. I work with a range of clients from 1 to 2 founders to a large global company. I primarily work on the investor side. My area of expertise is in the due diligence, and that's kind of a broad term. So but it sort of leans heavily on my law degree. It might be helpful to know I played a lead role with launching Kazoo Angels in Kalamazoo. So that is my background, and I'm very delighted to be here. Thanks, Sandra.
Great, thank you, Mary Sue. Well, due to an emergency, one of our presenters is not able to participate today, so we will only have 2 presenters, but that's okay. It gives us a little bit more time to have interactions. Our 2 presenters in order will be Jeff Williamson with VisionSolutionsRx, and we'll also have Robin Wright King with Urban Docz. So with that, Jeff, if you are ready, why don't you get your screen going and let's make sure we can see it before I start the timer for our 10 minutes. You will have to kind of keep track of your own time or watch the timer up in you should have a timer button or kind of a timer in the upper left-hand corner. That should help you keep track.
Can everybody see my screen now?
We see your screen, but we see us. We don't see your power. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
There we go. So whenever you are ready, we can begin.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for taking the time out to listen to myself and to the other presenter today. I think the feedback is going to be invaluable. So that said, let me begin by introducing myself. Jeff Williamson. I'm the founder and CEO of VisionSolutionsRx with our product VisionWare X. And to begin, over 1 billion people worldwide suffer from a learning disorder such as dyslexia. And insurance companies and parents pay out over $10 billion annually for the diagnosis of dyslexia alone. Yet, 80% of the population goes undiagnosed. The era and time of time-consuming, subjective-based testing is now over. We need to transition to a solution that is quantitative, analytical, and enjoyable. Introducing the game changer, VisionSolutionsRx. And of course, technology will be a little bit slower. So the overall arching problem is that 1 in 4 students have a vision problem that causes a significant amount of learning disorder. And as I had mentioned, 1 in 5 people suffer from a learning disorder such as dyslexia. It has an overall bigger problem if we don't catch things early on, such as 46% of teenage suicides result with a person that is suffering from a learning disorder such as dyslexia. And a recent survey in the Texas penal system showed that 80% of prison inmates are functionally illiterate. The greatest contributing factor is that they are dyslexic. And of course, apologize, things are. What is dyslexia? 2 types of dyslexia. You can acquire dyslexia later in life, typically from trauma or a stroke or dementia. The one we're going to focus in on is the one that is more commonly prominent, which is developmental, which is a hereditary and neurological problem. Though there is a visual component more often than not. If you break out dyslexia, though I've got 4 years of Latin in my background, please don't ask me to pronounce these words. I can define them. So you're either motor dyslexic, visual dyslexic, or auditory dyslexic, or any combination thereof. So there's actually 7 permutations, 7 subtypes of dyslexia. One of the other overarching problems is that in the state of Michigan alone, we rank 50th out of 50 on how we deal with dyslexia. It is seen as a medical problem, not a learning disorder. So one of the key factors that we want to try and address is, can we get this visibly in the schools to properly diagnose and properly treat these individuals? So the one-stop shop of, yes, we identify you as being dyslexic, and we're going to give a one solution in terms of a therapy, doesn't work. We have to identify what type of dyslexia do you have, and then what type of treatment is going to be best suited for you specifically. I'm going to gather that it's because everybody's on. There we go. So we partnered with a leading expert in dyslexia. After months of searching out and talking to no less than a dozen different diagnostic and therapeutic solutions, we came up with a partner out of South Africa that defines and can concretely identify those subtypes of dyslexia and up to 7, we'll call it ranking systems. How bad do you have dyslexia on a scale? And instead of doing it in a traditional paper-based format that takes upward of 6 to 8 one-hour sessions, we can get this accomplished in about an hour. As a classically trained and educated scientist myself, my objective has always been to create and bring to market products and services that have an impact on society. And for over 20 years in my career, I have made nominal impacts towards those goals, but never reaching the pinnacle of leaving a significance on society at large. Hence, no legacy, and kind of feeling trapped like a hamster in its wheel. It was at a recent Heisman Trophy winner's Tim Tebow's lecture that I had my eureka moment. Tim did an outstanding job explaining that worldly success is just a byproduct of living a life of significance, and more importantly, bringing significance to others. And that aha moment enabled me to recognize my focus back on creating a product and service towards significance, and thus unlocking the true potential of VisionWareX. Other team members is Jinping Zhao, who is our Chief Scientific Officer. He's got over 12 years of experience in the optical industry at the University of Texas, Houston. He's currently the Chief Scientific Officer at Allstem, a startup biotech in the Bay Area. And once fully funded, he will be coming on board full time, pretty much driving the clinicals as well as grant writing. We also have Mariki Cilliers, who's a optometrist for over 11 years in South Africa. And to give you a little bit of a backstory, it was about 18 months ago that Mariki and I were having a conversation along a different product line, along the lines of augmented reality, using augmented reality for virtual try-on of glasses, as well as measuring your pupillary distance, your sag height, and such, and all using augmented reality. And I simply asked her the question, Mariki, what if we design something in the virtual reality space? What do you think you could do? I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm not a clinician in your space. What could be done? And she struggled with that because everybody initially knee-jerk reaction thinks of virtual reality as a gaming system. And I simply said, well, there's new technologies out there that would enable us to track individually your pupils and where are you focused in on the screen at fractions of a second. She thought about that and for about 30 seconds and came back and said, Jeff, well, now you're dealing with something along the lines of reading. My jaw dropped and she didn't finish her sentence. I said, oh my God, do we now have the ability to possibly screen for dyslexia? Is that person reading up, down, left, right, diagonally? She stopped me mid-sentence and said, Jeff, are you aware of how you treat dyslexia? At least one of the ways. I said, absolutely not. She said, well, we treat them with one of 12 commercially available lenses. So you might need a 480 nanometer blue lens that stimulates that region of the brain to help proficiency. She didn't know it at the time, but we had been working in VR along those lines. We had designed a VR system that, case in point, take a 360 video of someone driving at night on the turnpike with oncoming traffic. There are commercially available lenses that treat that, but at 10 o'clock in the morning, how do you replicate that scenario at the doctor's office? Which lens is the appropriate lens for you? With a proper lens report, we could actually define out and put in virtual space and mimic that scenario perfectly. And then you just scroll and figure out what lens meets that parameter, whether it be driving at night, driving in rain, snow skiing, fishing. And within 48 hours, we were able to get the dyslexia lens reports and prove that we can mimic those particular lenses and put them into a testing-based environment.
Jeff, you're at 30 seconds to go.
Oh, wow. Okay. I apologize. So real quick, where we're at right now is since that 18 months ago, we are now in phase 3, where we are approaching clinical trials and going to market in beta test in the next 4 weeks. And phase 4 is completing of the clinical trials and commercialization and licensing. Our market is to go after eye care professionals, the schools themselves for a screening tool, and then ultimately a gamified therapy, as well as IEPs. As we found that there is no direct competition for using VR for a diagnostic purposes, there is one company that's using VR for a therapy. Financials, I'm more than willing to share full financials to anyone interested after the discussion. Funding round, we did raise $250,000 to get ourselves to this MVP. We are a Michigan C corporation, and we're looking to raise a $2 million, we'll call it true seed round at this time. We've already won 2 international awards, top healthcare visionaries in 2021 and best healthcare company in 2022. Provisional patent has been filed. Our exit strategy is ultimately more than likely going to be one of our licensing partners, such as a Kumon or Sylvan Learning. And that said, given the time, I'll go ahead and cut things a little short and take any questions.
Great. Thank you. Good job, Jeff. That was very interesting. We are now going to turn it to our panel and see what they think. Nancy, I think I'm going to start with you. Can you give us some feedback for Jeff?
Yeah. So Jeff, obviously, you had all the elements in your pitch that an investor is interested in. You just need to, work a little bit on your time management because, a lot of the interesting meat of, kind of what is your business model? How are you going to market? What is your trajectory in terms of what you think your financials will be? All of those bear more discussion. I would have to say the one thing, you did a great job of setting up the problem, but you left me way too long in suspense as to what your solution was. So kind of the backdrop story of kind of your team, how you got there, really need to tighten that up. I think as a general rule, investors are sort of impatient. They want to see it's a viable product. Here's your solution of how you're going about it, and then what your business model is, your go-to-market, how you stack up to the competition. Would like to learn more about your IP strategy. I mean, what exactly is protected versus not protected, so in any event, again, I think you have the elements in your pitch. You just need to work on your time management and making sure that you're hitting on the other areas that are important to competitors, and tell us what your solution is much earlier in the process.
Great.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Chao, can we go to you next and have you give some feedback?
Definitely. Great. Thank you, Jeff. And that's very helpful. That's good. That's a great pitch. Several feedback. What I really like is I like you have your slogan in your open slides that the immediate caught our eyes and what you're trying to accomplish. And but you use the stock picture, so I'm not sure that's right. It really is your product or that's your software as your product. I like you're open with the numbers. All the numbers, 80% is not diagnosed, so 25%. I really like that. I like you break it down. The dyslexia. That's very helpful for lots of investors. Probably don't know that. Give us the breakdown. What does that mean? What is the current treatment? What is current different treatment? Depends on different the symptoms, or right? That's very helpful. Several things I think can bring your pitch to the next level, or make it more effective. I think you talk about your tech partner in Africa. I would love to understand a little more your tech partner's credential, how you work together. Is it a licensing deal, or is it your code that you research it together? Uh, what's the back what's backing your innovation or your product? And I'm not quite sure what's your product. Your product is software, is it hardware, or what is it, right? And who's using it? And not until you talk about your go-to-market strategy, I don't know who's using it and how they use it, and then whether they use it for treatment or diagnosis. At the beginning, I thought you talk about the diagnosis of different dyslexia, and then when you talk about the story working with this lady, talk about treatment, different VR treatment. That so help us understand at what stage, even if you do both things, do you start? What's your go to strategy? How do you start? And how it works? You talk about you break it down from a 6 session, 1 hour session, all the way to 1 hour. Okay, what's the given? How do you get it down? Is it software? Is it hardware? Go back to what's your product, and then how much is the compare with the current system, how much does it cost? We don't know what's the pricing. If you can give us a margin, that'll be great. Or the pricing structure. Do people pay the for it? Does it need FDA? All the or is it you purchase the hardware and then it's become a SS? And then I want you to talk a little more. Oh, great, thank you. Sorry, I missed that. And talk a little more about the award. I like to hear you talk about the award, and a little less on. You don't need to talk about the Team Tebow. That experience is great. Talk about your relevant experience in the industry that help you prepare you for this adventure moving forward. Give us confidence because 50% of the time we're looking at the product, looking at your business model. 50% we're looking at you and your team. That's why we would love to hear more about Africa, the tech banking. I would love to hear more about your team. And the last thing is on the delivery. Just use PDF. It's much easier, and that's I think that's the flip much faster and work well in all kinds of environment. And really, for us, we cannot see the transition too well, so PDF works great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mary Sue, what are your thoughts? Oh, don't forget to unmute.
Yeah, I would agree with the former, with my colleagues and their comments. So just to tick off a few and maybe just to add one or two, you know, as Nancy said, tighten up the narrative. You know, a lot of your pitch was missing very basic elements, and having a lot of experience with investors, they really want to have you march right down through those slides. And I thought your introduction could have been a lot stronger. You know, one or two sentences are very helpful and can be very effective. Who you are, what the problem is, and what your solution is. And I felt it sort of wandered, you sort of verbally wandered through those subjects. And it took, as Nancy said, it took a long time to explain the technology. And then also it left me hanging, and it also leaves a seed of doubt when you mention a major partner in South Africa, but that partner is not fully named, and the title to intellectual property is not clearly articulated. So when you just briefly toss out, we have a provisional patent, but there's really no detail as to who owns the IP, who's, you know, is it a provisional, who's, it's, the inventor is, it's registered to, it's assigned to the company, you know, what is that title to clear, you know, that clear title to intellectual property. So that, again, these things that because they weren't touched upon, they leave a seed of doubt. And that's not where you want to be. So I would also agree with some of the other points, so I won't reiterate, but I do want to get to one maybe that hasn't been touched on, and that was the milestones and the funding. Again, you were out of time, and I do see, yes, Dark Griffin, but I don't know, you know, I don't know much about who that is and what the technology is and whether they own the IP or whatever. So that needs to be broken out into more, and the text is very small. So I saw the slide, but there wasn't enough there. But going to the funding, I think you mentioned, I didn't see anything broken out in terms of sort of like a milestone in funding tied to that milestone. I think you said you're interested in a $2 million raise. So I think, you know, there needs to be sort of a staggered approach to that 2 million in terms of the commercialization plan. And again, I think you know all of this, Jeff. I mean, I think it's there. It's just that, you know, we were instead listening to your conversation with colleagues, and that's something that you can convey after the pitch, when you get that second conversation with the investor, maybe one-on-one or maybe with a group of investors. That's when you can relay what you just told us. So the conversation, so a lot of the information you told us today is actually your second conversation. It's not your first. Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Jeff, did you have any specific questions that you wanted to ask the panel? Anything that you wanted specific feedback about?
No, I think they hit the nail on the head. Unfortunately, the slide deck skipped a couple of slides throughout the presentation, so they were there. And you're right, the time management, I did not have the clock in front of me to kind of control time there.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much. Go ahead and unshare your screen.
Okay.
And we're going to get Robin teed up and ready to go. Thank you. Robin, there you are. Would you like to go ahead and try to see if you can share yours? If not, I have it here if you need me to march through the slides.
No, I would prefer if you would show the slides, because I think I needed to reboot my system in order to set those new settings. I did I do understand what the issue is, so it would be easier if you shared.
Okay, is PowerPoint showing?
It is, but it's not in full screen.
I need to get it into presentation mode. Give me 1 second here. How are we doing now?
That's good.
Okay.
Yep, we see it.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
But Susan, before we start the time, I would like to, there's one item that I'd like to mention to the team that I would like feedback on that might not be quite as obvious. But in that area is, when we started this business or this concept about 18 months or so ago, we came up with the name Urban Docz. We're thinking about changing that name because our focus for the business has changed. And I think you will hear that as I make my presentation. So just wanted to put that out there as plant that seed or provide that food for thought as I go through my presentation, because we're thinking that the current name of the organization probably doesn't resonate now with where we're going with the business. So just wanted to start there.
Okay.
Okay.
With that in mind, the 10 minutes will start whenever you are ready.
I am ready. Good morning. I'm Robin Wright King, CEO of Urban Docz. Urban Docz is rethinking the delivery of women's reproductive health care through the use of digital technology, AI and data integration. Today, the supply of infertility specialists does not meet demand. About 60 reproductive health fellows graduate annually in the United States, which is about 1.1 new specialists per state. As a result, patients are waiting for extended periods of time to see a specialist, creating a bottleneck in the lucrative infertility care system. Our solution addresses this shortage. Next slide. This is Jennifer. She's been trying unsuccessfully to conceive for 2 years. Imagine the frustration when she and her husband learned the wait for an in-person appointment with a fertility specialist was at least 6 months. Jennifer is one of millions of individuals and couples impacted by infertility, a health challenge that is more common than most people think. Today, as many as 1 in 7 couples who is trying to have a baby will experience infertility. Finally, when it comes to infertility, the struggle goes well beyond the physical, with 60% of those struggling with infertility also experiencing significantly high levels of anxiety and depression, confirming the strong relationship between infertility and mental health. Next slide. The problem we are solving is there are not enough infertility and reproductive health specialists in the United States today to meet demand. Because of the limited supply of these specialty physicians, individuals and couples are waiting for extended periods of time to begin evaluation and treatment, and for some, the mental health burden as their window to support a pregnancy closes. Also, hospital systems and providers are losing patients because of the excessive wait times to receive care, resulting in missed revenue on high-dollar services like IVF, obstetric care, deliveries, and imaging. Next slide. While we cannot increase the number of fertility specialists, we can rethink the delivery of infertility care and treatment through the power of technology. For physicians, Our solution increases capacity to perform high-dollar procedures and services, including IVF, surgeries, deliveries, specialty care, and referrals, resulting in increased revenue for providers and hospital systems where they perform these procedures. For health plans and employers, we lower the cost of insurance claims and out-of-pocket costs by providing the tools to educate, monitor, track, and guide a patient's progress to conceive. And for patients, shortens the wait time for patients to see an infertility specialist, helping them to begin the treatment journey to conceive sooner and support their overall well-being. Next slide. Our technology plan is twofold. We will develop a provider and patient engagement app that educates the patient, monitors, tracks, and captures the clinical data across the treatment milestones to achieve pregnancy, all while providing the infertility specialist with the data needed to support decisions to manage and treat patients to a successful physical and emotional outcome. Also, we will engage with a telehealth solution company to white label their solution. We think it doesn't make sense to develop what is already in the marketplace. Next slide. Our value proposition is that our solution provides the important components of the non-invasive portion of infertility treatment by providing virtual consultations, remote monitoring, workflow tools to support decision-making, digital care planning, patient response measures and feedback, health literacy, and communication channels. Next slide. Our competitors all provide women's reproductive health services to varying degrees. However, we differentiate ourselves by offering a fully virtual platform with a specific goal to streamline the non-invasive services related to infertility and increase patient throughput for fertility providers, clinics, and hospital systems. Our solution is also unique by supporting emergency prescriptions during off hours, providing home testing resources, and channel partnerships to support mental health. Next slide. The market is substantial, with $15 billion in market spend for reproductive health women, $900 million for reproductive age women who use telehealth today, and $124 million through access to hospital and medical centers, telehealth companies, and community health systems. Next slide. Our go-to-market strategy will focus on 3 vertical markets, including large community health systems, community health organizations, and telehealth companies partnered with colleges and universities. Next slide. We have our milestone. Here are our milestones for the next 18 to 20 months. We will launch our MVP app in the final quarter of, we will finalize the requirements for our MVP app in the final quarter of this year, and we will begin the work to identify and establish hospital and telehealth partnerships. We will integrate with payers and channel partners, launch with hospital and/or telehealth companies by fourth quarter of next year, and in 2024, we will add new verticals to include egg freezing and support for male reproductive health. Next slide. These are our financials for our first 5 years. We are profitable starting in 2024 and will grow our margins to 39% by 2027. Next slide. Our business model is simple. We plan to charge $400 per patient. The $400 charge will be charged at the provider level for each patient that they are servicing. Our team includes my partner and co-founder, Dr. Ali Bazi. Dr. Ali Bazi is a board-certified OBGYN and infertility fellow at the University of Michigan. Our other advisors include support for legislative, business development support, partnership and practice guidance, and legal advice. To launch and begin to grow our business, we will need $1.5 million. These funds will be used to build and iterate our MVP app and integration with an ERH system, automate insurance reimbursements and support, and business development. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I look forward to your feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, nicely done. Thank you. So we're back. I think I have everybody back. Let me start with Sun Chao this time. We're going to have you go first. Go ahead and unmute and tell Robin what you think.
Right, great.
Mhm.
Robin, thank you so much. So
Mhm.
very well prepared and the presentation and some of the feedback. I like you put on your mission statement on your first slides. When I look at it, I kind of already know who you serve. Well, I'm not quite sure who you serve, but I don't know what you do. I like your numbers. That's introduced in your slides, and I think first 3 slides you try to tell one story, right? You can merge them together, and I like that, but I always like to see the numbers to see how severe the situation and the question, the current market opportunity is. I'm a little confused after. That's why we'll talk about the first 3 slides. I'm a little confused after the first three slides. You talk about Jennifer. Talk about their biggest challenge is the wait. They have the 6 months wait. Then is that the biggest challenge of people who try to get conceived? That's the biggest challenge is a long wait time. Or is the biggest challenge a long wait time is the biggest challenge of losing revenue of the hospital that they can improve?
Okay.
So for the first 3 slides, I kind of don't get the idea of are you providing a more convenient service for the patient, focus on that, or you're focusing on the lost revenue
Okay.
because of the channel you're providing more channel. I think that go back to your
I'm sorry. I had my little stop clock going here to make sure I didn't go over.
no problem. Yeah. So so the first 3 slides I didn't get out who would benefit, who's motivated to use your product.
Okay.
And then I would love to hear what's the current situation. Sounds like you describe this whole it's a desert of service, and then you come here, you can provide this channel. Well, are there any? I would assume, especially called Urban Docz at the beginning. I think is this difference between different demographics, different between economic, the rural area, the urban area, and is it different between already the larger community health system or the university-based, that's a very broad claim of the market where the situation is. I would love to hear a little more who you're targeting, you're generating value for. And then looks like you're creating this platform with all the automation, with all the monitoring system, non-invasive. Why you have to do women's reproductive care? Like it seems like this platform can be used in a lot of other places. It's okay that you focus on that because you have expertise. I would love to hear why why I stopped there. So that's something I would love to hear. And then we understand the privacy, the HEPA is very important. How do you address that? And of your team, I didn't see a CTO. Your co-founder is OBGYN, and everybody else is a legislator, right? Where's the
Yeah.
technology coming from?
Yeah.
You can tell me you're based on a university incubator, or you currently have a model who's working on that. But to the end of the day, we understand it's probably easier software to create, but it's harder to sell. But still,
Yeah.
who's creating software for you, right? So I need to see a CTO, and then future milestone, future revenue. I would love to hear what's the stake right now. Who made the investment right now? Did you put your own money in? And you talk about 18 months. What happened in the past 18 months? I would love to hear there.
Okay.
And lastly, you're very well prepared, a little too well prepared. I would say, try not to read. Give us especially if we're in person, give us the eye contact. You should know this the best. You're the CEO. And
Okay.
don't need to read anything. You just go over it, put a little humor in there, or this is a sorry, this is a serious topic, but put a little
I
bit
understand.
personal touch. I think that would be more, keep us moving, engaged. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Sun Chao. Let's go to Mary Sue next. Let's hear your thoughts. Unmute.
All right, I'm with you. Nice job. Well, I would agree. I think you're rethinking the name of the business.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yeah, please do. Yeah.
Okay.
I think as an attorney, when I hear Urban Docz, I think of, I think of documents and some sort of, it just gets me off on so I think something that would be much more descriptive.
Yeah.
And then, so you're on the right track there. Okay. So just not to, again, reiterate, so I'll just focus in some different areas. I kept wondering to myself, so what is it about the data collection? What is the data that's being collected that is new, different, and critically important? So, that gets to, some of the former comments in terms of, okay, who's developing the technology, but I never really fully understood the connection between the problem and the solution and the data that's being transferred. So you've done a beautiful job, but to me, I couldn't. And you did say we don't want to duplicate what is already on the market. So then I said, you're absolutely right. So how are you not doing that? I would focus a little bit there. Second, the $400 per patient price point. I wasn't entirely sure how you came up with that. You'll be questioned quite extensively on that and how it plays into your revenue model. Recurring revenue, I'm not sure if I saw anything that was that would produce recurring revenue. And then thirdly, the $1.5 million MVP app. Right? Is that correct? You had a.
It's 1.5 million. It's the MVP app. It's business development, and then it's IT integration.
Yeah. Okay. That's a pretty big number. I mean, and you could justify that, but I can also say investors are a little shy at this point to invest that kind of dollar amount into an app. And so, I'm going to say, I'm not going to go so far as to say apps are a little disfavored, but they're viewed with some suspicion because what ends up happening is that they soft launch and they just can't get the traction, they can't scale and get to the point where they get enough paying users. So it's that whole business model, Rob, and it's like, okay, if you're looking for 1.5 million, that's a big chunk of change. You might want to break that down into smaller amounts. What's the soft launch going to be? What's your experience already? How many paying users do you expect to receive? And at that $400 price point, what does that mean? So break it down into a formula that, as kind of representing the people I know, the investors, they would say to themselves, okay, how long is it going to be before you really make money? What are your assumptions? May be a little over optimistic, at least at this point. And second, when am I going to make money? Now, one point I thought that maybe you might want to hit a little harder, and that is your exit. So how, again, if you're looking for that high of a round, there's going to be another round probably and another round after that. So, most likely. So it's going to be, okay, so what does the exit look like? And that's where I think you can put forth a much stronger investment proposition. We talk about value proposition to the consumer or the client, business proposition, and I think it could be much stronger. Who might be how could you exit in a way, who would be a likely acquirer? That would make that return on investment. So
great. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary Sue. And then we're going to go over to Nancy and hear your thoughts.
Okay, well, I'll try not to be redundant, so I'll just kind of hit on a few of the main points because I think my two colleagues did a really nice job of the detail. First of all, again, very good delivery, good time management. In theory, your pitch kind of hit on all of the points that investors are looking for. So kudos to that. I was a little confused as to how you are really going to, what your business model is, how you're going to make money. I'm assuming when you talk about $400 per patient that you're going to go try to get an insurance reimbursement code and make money that way. I have to say I've seen enough of these where that raises a little bit of a skepticism for me because the whole process of getting an insurance reimbursement code can be long drawn out. So you may want to comment on that. I also have to say, in agreement with my colleagues that, we see hundreds and hundreds of apps. And so, the onus on you is to really go into some detail on that app, what it's doing that's going to be different and unique. And in addition to talking about the app, you have to talk about the whole business process around the app because, as Mary Sue said, apps, I think a lot of times people think we put an app out there, now it's off to the races and they don't sell themselves. So you really need to wrap that app and the whole business processes and not just how you're going to market and sell the app, but how does the app fit into the business process of the medical provider? What is the patient expected to do? Yeah, that I think. And then, with regard, you had a good competitive slide, but I have to say I didn't quite understand the attributes. So maybe picking out an attribute or two that your competitors are doing, and then specifically talking how you will be different would kind of help improve that understanding. And then, just my last comment, I also thought I wanted to know more about exit and about your fundraising plan. I didn't so much hiccup at the 1.5 million. We're seeing a lot of early stage companies now raise money, although I have to say, I'm not seeing companies without MVPs raise $1.5 million. So that may be a big ask given where you are, but it does beg the question of what are your subsequent rounds of funding? Because if I'm gonna engage with you early, how much money do I need to save back? If I want to continue to support you. But again, overall, I think your pitch lays a really good foundation, and there's just a bit more detail in some of these areas to make your value proposition clear. That would be helpful.
Okay. All right. Thank you very, very much. Very exciting.
Great. Thank you. That was very helpful. Robin, did you have any other specific questions you want to follow up with the panel? Ask them anything?
Well, just a couple things. So I think Nancy, and I don't know if it's so much of a question, but getting an insurance reimbursement code. I actually have like 12 years of experience. I worked 4.5 years with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan in a product development role, and about 8.5 years at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, leading a product development team. And so I'm familiar with, sort of what it takes to get that reimbursement code. And it is absolutely a challenge. So I wanted to say that, and I agree with you that can certainly be a challenge. The other piece of this that I think was mentioned was the overall technology piece. And when you look at our team, we do not have a CEO. A CTO, and that is a gap today. And so even though I have experience on the business side, where my client working inside of Blue Cross are really our members. And so I had the responsibility to develop the requirements, but hand off those requirements to an IT team. So my experience is not on the IT side. So, I understand, the process to develop requirements, understand what the business needs are, that kind of thing. So my bottom line is we recognize that there is a gap today from a technology standpoint in terms of having someone on board and how important that is. And we're working to fill that gap. And then I guess the final thing that I would mention is that I recently left. I retired from Blue Cross. And so I'm doing this full time. So it is like beyond exciting to be able to do this full time. So I've been full time for about 60 days doing this. And so we are looking today for two things, at least to have someone on board as an IT advisor, and then ultimately be able to engage someone to actually be a part of the team from an IT perspective, because again, recognizing that that's a big gap. The other thing that we are thinking about is we're wondering if, in addition to providing this app, we're giving some thought to, and this was one of we're actually in the Venture Well Aspire Accelerator, fantastic program. And one of the comments that one of the advisors made to us is that they said, so you guys are, working on this app, but have you considered actually providing the service and growing, a practice basically with a group of physicians who would provide this service virtually using this app. And then that way you sort of have like two streams, right? So you have one stream of income where, again, you'd have to, it literally would be like creating a telehealth platform where you have infertility practitioners providing that virtual non-invasive service up front, taking that off of the plate of infertility physicians. And then the other piece of it would be just sort of this standalone app that you would sell and market to others. Any thoughts or feedback on that concept? Hopefully it made sense.
I guess I would say that that's certainly something to consider and be worth exploring, but don't bite off more than what you can chew at this point. I mean, given where you are right now, you've got a lot of work to develop an MVP and then to prove, because frankly, like, even though we're very early stage, we won't invest until there's an MVP and some evidence of customer data that says, there will be a market for this. And so I would definitely encourage you to work to accomplish that. It's great to be thinking about the long term, but I wouldn't spend a whole lot of energy immediately on that until you get your app at the MVP with some realistic customer data.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Did any of the other panelists want to weigh in on that topic?
Yeah, I agree 100% with Nancy. Yeah. Robin, you have to realize that, you're a startup with limited resources. And you've got to put one foot in front of the other with accomplishing, that MVP app and building some credibility, getting customer traction, that sort of thing, so yeah, stay focused.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great, especially if the bottleneck is the capacity, the bandwidth of the OBGYN out there to provide service.
Yeah.
And if this is their side gig, if this is full time you're putting together, then how much they need your app to do this? They probably don't need your app, and they just get whatever telehealth system out there by chart and just doing it, right? That's a completely different business model. Stay focused.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
We do just have a few, because we only had two presenters today, so we've got a little bit of time. Jeff, was there anything else that has come to your mind that you wanted to ask the panel I just wanted to give because we still have just a few more minutes. Was there anything else you wanted to ask? Or panelists, is there anything else that you want to say to either one of our presenters as we bring this into a conclusion? No?
Nope.
Okay.
I would say to Robin, if you're trying to build a tech team, go start with the incubator that the universities and the local economic or regional economic development center and organization. Give you an example. I mean, Ann Arbor side, Ann Arbor, we have Ann Arbor Tech meetup every Tuesday. You have a time to stand up and say, "I'm trying to build this, looking for a collaborator," and that's usually how people get to
Oh,
contact
really?
with their tech support. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
something. I don't know where you're located. Is somewhere
In
probably have all-
Dearborn.
Dearborn. Yeah, come to Ann Arbor. The tech meetup. That is the very valuable place to share your vision and to recruit your partners.
Okay, great. May I reach out to you? I just want to understand a little bit more on site. May I reach out to you for that?
Yeah, sure, definitely. You can get
Okay.
my contact from Sandra.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Okay, and with that, we are going to bring this on home. First of all, I would like to thank all of our presenters today. Thank you for sharing with us your innovative companies. They're all extraordinarily interesting, so thank you. And also thank you to our investor panel for offering your incredibly insightful feedback and your suggestions. It really helps everybody learn and get better at what we do. And lastly, thanks to everyone in the audience for joining us today. I do hope you'll join us again on January 31st for our next Kalamazoo Venture Tuesday meeting, the first of 2023. As always, we will feature 3 new companies and 3 new investor panelists. You can register for that. I just dropped it in the chat. There's the link to our calendar. You can learn more and you can sign up there. I'm not sure I have it out there yet. I shouldn't have put that out there. I'll get that up there in just a few minutes. And again, thank you everyone for your participation, for your attendance. Have a wonderful day, and I do hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.